This is the Modern Longevitarian. I am Scott Stanfield. Welcome to episode 87. Thank you for watching Spirituality Gone Wild. Thank you for watching on LinkedIn. Today's topic is addiction, survival, recovery with my friend Saf Buxy, right? He's a human behavioral consultant, professional speaker, and broadcaster. He is also a recovered addict, an abuse victim, and above all, a survivor. Before we get to the conversation with Saf, let's take care of some quick business here. You know, Harvard Business Review posted on Instagram just a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, that 85% of the survey respondents said their general well-being has declined since the beginning of COVID-19. 50% of the 85 said their decline has been in mental health. The longer I do this, the more I realize the truth behind the quote by Bruce Lee that says, the body follows the mind. The longer I do this, the more I lean towards and the more I need to, because my clients, it's a demand that I teach them and coach them on mindset before anything else. Your software drives your hardware. The way you think determines how you act, how you feel, how you look, how you perform, what your body composition is. Your software drives your hardware. And so I'm taking on new coaching clients for a new group that I have starting. If mindset, lifestyle, and health span coaching from someone who's been driving the struggle bus, Saf and I were laughing just before the show. We were showing different images and stuff. Let me show you, right? Here's a guy, age 31, 40 pounds overweight. And that picture was taken at my dad's 70th birthday. My arms wrapped around my dad, right? I was 46 years old at the time and my optimal weight. So it's totally possible. I've been there. I totally get it. So you can do two things. One, you can send me a DM. You can, or you can go to modernlongevitarian.com/coaching. You can get there by going to strongforlonger.com as well. That'll forward you there. Set up your free discovery call with me today, right? So we'll get it going. Next shows Tuesday, Dr. Sajid Zazala, the latest research that he is doing on lifespan and health span. Tune in. Don't miss the show. We're going to dig deep. We're going to peel back the layers of the onion. We're really going to get there. So tune in for that. Wednesday, the Modern Longevitarian Kitchen is where my daughter and I do a live cooking show. So tune in for that. Thursday, Matt Shearer, he's a vet that is helping vets transition back into the civilian world. We're going to talk about all the things he's doing. He's also consulting and coaching young kids as they transition into the military. So super cool stuff. And Friday, my friend Ken Fay, first and foremost, a storyteller. He's also an Emmy award-winning producer, director, writer. We're working on projects together behind the scenes. You're going to hear about some of that stuff. And he's probably going to turn the tables on me and start asking me a bunch of questions so people can learn more about Scott Stanfield here on the Modern Longevitarian. So let's get to today's interview with the one and only Saf Buxy. My friend Saf, welcome to the Modern Longevitarian.
Hey, what's up, Scott? So, you know, I feel like busting out an Elton John tune. Tiny dancer. I love it, man.
That's right. Well, I had to put the glasses on, man, because that's your deal, man. We had to do it, right?
That's it.
I brought 3 pair, right? I got wardrobe changes, right? I can do wardrobe changes in the middle. This is closer, right?
We look like twins.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Hey, how you doing, Scott? I'm so, you know what, this has been long overdue, isn't it? Long overdue, but hey, we're here now. That's the way it's happened, and I'm so happy to be here. Just grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. No, it is long overdue, and we talked about this for months, right? You know, I've been part of Spirituality Gone Wild since, which we're both co-creators on. You have a show. I was commenting and watching your show, your guest you had yesterday talking about sleep, and I was like, heck, I wrote a book on sleep. I know this is the most important stuff, right? Yeah. Yeah. So
I saw your comment. I'll introduce you to her. She's a good lass. She's a good lass, as we say in the UK. But
right.
yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Yeah.
no, it's long overdue, and I'm so happy you're here. We've we've already got 4 comments that are in. Let's see what we got here. Right. So let's see the first one here. You probably can see these on your end because you're in the logged in. What is that? I don't know if they're talking about my sunglasses on or this is a friend of yours.
I have no
Right.
idea, but Musa Shumayala, Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi, barakatuh, kaifa halak. I don't know, but I know a bit of Arabic, and I'm assuming he might understand what I just said.
Okay.
Yalla, yalla.
Right. He gave a what is that twice, right? It must have been my Elton John glasses that he was right. And then he gave a how are you, sir? And then Tanya Gibbs gave us a hello, right?
Hey,
So
Tanya.
hey Tanya, how you doing? So if you guys got any questions along the way, any comments, I used to be sitting in these banquet event meetings every week, and this lady she ran the meeting. At the end, she would go, any complaints, any concerns, any compliments, right? So right, if you got any complaints, concerns, questions, compliments, just send them our way, right? We'll just like knock this out, right?
There might be a few complaints by the time the show is finished.
Well, I think the one thing for sure, you and I are going to have a blast, right? So it doesn't matter if anybody else watches this, it doesn't matter, right? It's just about you and me at this point, right?
This is what my daughter got me. Can you read that?
No. What's it say?
It says, Saf Buxy, being you is your power.
Wow.
And to get something like this from your children after you destroyed their lives through addiction, it shows how far I've come. And
right.
Something so small to others, this was a huge thing for me. Just wanted to put that out there.
Right. I just got chills. Wow. Amazing. The same thing, right? Our children's are great, indicators of that type of stuff. My daughter gave me a cup and it had a picture of Yoda on it. Right. And it said Yoda best pa. Right. Yeah. And I think my daughter was like 11 or 12 when she gave that to me, and I've got pictures of that cup, everywhere. Right. I was drinking it, coffee out of it at work and, those type of things. And, but no, it's super amazing when you get those type of things because you got to think, my job's taking them away from taking me away from them. And, I don't know if you know the geographic layout of the United States, but our home base where I'm at right now is in Park City, Utah, and I've been in California working for months, and Colorado working for months, and I lived in a hotel for 8 months straight, and 4 different hotels over 8 months straight, so so I get it, totally get that. So yeah, that's amazing. I actually just as a guy that worked for me in Colorado, my advice to him yesterday was we've been texting and calling each other because my assistant manager, which was the Robin to my Batman, at this place in Colorado, was in a car accident and she's in a coma, and so we're all kind of reconnecting and talking to each other and stuff, and we were talking about work and those type of things, and I said, just be Josh, right? Just be you, right? And I think that's the most important piece of the puzzle, right? It's just be you, right?
I think it's great. I mean, just before I came on, I was on a platform with Les Brown, who I'm sure
absolutely love Les Brown.
Yeah, he was fascinating, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, this guy's got so much confidence, and I started thinking, I wish I had that kind of confidence, and I know I do have a certain level, and then I realized, you know what? I just got to be me. In life, I just got to be me. There's only one Les Brown. There's only one Saf Buxy. There's only one Scott Stanfield.
Right.
No one can take that away from us. No one.
Right.
No one.
Right.
Les has done amazing. He's sold out auditoriums and he's been great. And he's all about the rah-rah. I personally am not. I'm more about the authenticity. Not saying he's not authentic, but I'm more about the authenticity and about the being real and sharing my story and trying to give him a message of hope. That's what I'm about, Scott, and that's why I think we share the same commonality. We have the same love, the love of spirituality, obviously, the love of connection, the love for change, and the love for giving the message of hope. And I think that what makes us special together, and many other people, many other co-creators within spirituality gone wild. We have this commonality, which is beautiful.
Right. And the thing is this, right? We're spreading a message of hope, but my story connects with some people and your story connects with other people.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, I heard something the other day, and this is something that probably will ring true. It said, you have no testament if you've had no test.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm going to use that for my next book.
Yeah. Just put my name next to it, right? Yeah. Yeah. But think about this, right? Think about that, right? Your testament your and mine, right? 40 pounds overweight twice. My parents both having cancer at age 55. They had, surviving cancer. My uncle, my dad's two other best friends passing away of cancer, right? My grandfather passing away of cancer at age 62. That led me to create something called the modern longevitarian, which the word longevitarian wasn't even in our, lexicon, but it was in a book in the 1860s, right? And it was literally, God gifted it to me one day during a workout, right? 9 years ago. I went, longevitarian.com was already bought. I then thought about it, bought modern longevitarian, and held on to that for 8.5 years, right? Before I actually built a website, but COVID and a pandemic and furlough and all that stuff all these big words had to come in before I actually, did do that stuff. But the same thing for you, right? We've got some pictures we can show, right? Let's just show a little background here, right? So you want to give a little commentary on this one here?
Yeah. Wow. When I look at these photographs, I think when my life was at that time, this was roughly around the time when I was heavily indulging in cocaine and crystal meth in particular, and I'd lost a lot of weight, and I was a bit of a wildfire, a bit of a wild horse. I even got my hair braided on the top part, which is probably one of the smallest things I did when I was intoxicated. But yeah, that was obviously alcohol was a big part as well, but that was mainly the crystal meth and the cocaine days. Wow,
right.
that memories.
Right. But you have that test, and you came through it, and now you have the testament, right? And and so that's what the point that I really wanted to lay down. So, before we get into, I literally, I got one question for you, right? I just wanted us to have a conversation. Maybe if you can give us a summary really of kind of the background, how you got to where you are today, like all the things that you went through. And because there's different phases of your life, there's 3 images or, collages we have like this, right? So, so let's just give it, I love background stories, and for inspiration, I could put on my, my Elton John glasses for you.
Tiny dancer. No, obviously I'll say it in a nutshell, I think, because obviously the main stories and everything that I did is in my book that's coming out in a few weeks' time. And incidentally, my publisher is also from Colorado.
Oh, really?
And I think you may know her, Kathy Mason. So she's publishing the book, which we're getting very close for the launch. The launch I'm doing in Dubai in April. But so a lot of my story, of course, is in that book. It's an autobiography. But the reason for the book is to give a message of hope and to help as many people as possible. But I wanted to say something before, if I may, Scott.
Absolutely.
We've been going obviously through some distressing times recently, and I'm thinking to myself, we've been going through distressing times for as long as I can remember, and this is where I see another commonality. Whether we're talking about racism, gender inequality, homelessness, domestic violence, human trafficking, LGBTQ plus rights, disability rights, indigenous rights, addiction problems, mental health, which are both very close to my heart. We're talking about the fight against injustice.
Mm.
And I think I think as humanity, we've become very disconnected. Now, I've caused chaos most of my life. Been selfish, been bad at times, very, very hard to live with, very, very hard to work with. But I'm grateful that so many people, it's very close to me, gave me a second chance, especially my wife and my children. And I think that's when humanity is at its best. When we support each other and move forward as a collective and in communion. And I want to say that because I think without that support and without that help, I probably wouldn't be here today. So, and it's important. I think we should, we must try to avoid cancelling each other out for their past mistakes, but instead help each other grow, educate each other, and guide each other to redemption. And I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to get that out of the way because I think it's important to work together and not ridicule people for what they've done, and rather support them and help them and try and move forward with them, because I think that is when humanity is at its best. But my background is it's quite chaotic. I was born in a very dysfunctional family. So dysfunctional that I was adopted at birth. I was 2.5 months premature. So as soon as I was delivered, I was put in an incubator. So there's always one abandonment immediately. And then after I came out of the incubator, I was with the adoptive family from East London in the UK. I was born north of England. And number 2, abandonment. And it was, I know now that psychologically that definitely affected me for the rest of my life. Especially when I found out at the tender age of 18 years old, it was a massive shock for me. But especially after the 6 years prior to finding out, because I went to boarding school from the age of 11.
Wow.
And from the age of 11 to 17 or to 18, for those 6 years were probably the worst 6 years of my life. I was abused on a daily basis, racially, physically, emotionally, sexually at times, and it was every day. It was every day, and no one should have to go through that, especially a young person who's had his third abandonment in 11 years. First being from my birth mother, second being from the incubator, because that was my surroundings very, very quickly, and third going to, which felt as an abandonment at the time. Not that I knew I was adopted then, but it was tough. It was very tough, and I don't know how I got through it. Well, I do know how I got through it. I found alcohol.
Right.
It was just one of those things that happened. Whether it was to be accepted by my peers, whether it was out of fear, or whether it was out of survival, I think a combination of all three. But I had my first drink at the age of 11. I never drank before. It was a bottle of vodka. I drank it neat, within about 5-6 gulps, which is, now I think about it, that's phenomenal for an 11-year-old anyway.
Right.
And subsequently, I was unconscious for 9.5 hours. I had my first of 2 stomach pumps in my life, and nearly died.
Wow.
But I sort of made my name in the school in a bizarre kind of way.
Right.
Even after my first near-death experience at such a young age, in this environment where, as I said, I was enduring some serious abuse, abuse that no child should have to go through. I mean, I can tell you, many years later in recovery, I worked in the prison service in a Category B lifers prison, with people who've done some really horrific crimes, and I'm walking around all the different wings of the prison, the sex offenders wing, and people who've done murders and done some tortures and big jobs. And I'm thinking to myself, my word, I wish I had it this easy when I was at boarding school. Just to give you an idea how boarding
Right.
school was.
Wow.
Life as prison seemed easier to live in.
Wow. That's amazing. You know, this is gonna be a first for the show. I've never read a Bible scripture on, but I happened to see this morning on Instagram, and I looked it up on my app on my phone this morning as I was getting ready, you know, this morning as I was waking up, drinking a cup of coffee, and I pulled it up when you said this, and I want to read this, right? Because this is spirituality gone wild after all, right? So, it's Ephesians 4:2. Always be humble and gentle, be patient, and accept each other with love. Yeah. And wow. I mean, because here's the thing about that, right? This is not always accept each other with love. It says always, right? It's not a conditional thing. It's an unconditional love, right? You know, I needed that from people around me when I was wild and crazy and doing the things I was in my early 20s, right? And all that stuff. You know, and you know, obviously you did too, right? With, you know, family and, you know, friends and that type of those type of things, right? So it's amazing. We've had some other comments come in.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to get this out of the way here. All right. These Elton John glasses are kind of getting in the way here. All right. Tanya said, wow, this is an amazing. That is amazing. I love the mug. It's so precious. Such a meaning gift for your from your family. Tanya again, right? Spreading the message of hope is so important. Sharing our stories does save lives, right? And that's really the thing, right? That's why we're here. And, you know, your message of hope is of recovery, you know, from addiction, survival to abuse, of the physical abuse and all those things that you've been through. And, you know, mine is, you know, my hope is that you do have a say in your health span, your lifespan, right? You do have a say in that. And you're not destined to the genetics that your parents have passed down to you, right? So we have a say in that. We have one here, Jedediah Crouch. It's such a great feeling to know where you have been and where you're going to help change and inspire the lives of others. Right?
Jed is one of my regulars on my show, so always a pleasure to say hi to Jed. He's also a new member of the Untamed Club, so he's one of us now, Scott. So hi, Jed.
Awesome. Well, I know you've got some material back in the Untamed Club. You know, I have 500 words on each one of the pillars of the modern longevitarian. So go check that out. All right. If you want to go check that out in my section there. And so I mentioned a name earlier today, Josh, just be Josh, right? So Scott Stanfield is one of the saviors. He accepts people who they are, helps them grow, be a better person, very smart and wise man. And he basically repeated it. Scott Stanfield's a very wise man, one of my saviors, true inspiration. Josh, thank you so much, man. You've been a big, you know, inspiration for my life as well. I've learned a lot. And, we've talked about recently how I've been thinking about you a lot lately. So thanks for being on the show. Right.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then John Jensen, one of my regulars, right? He's asking you a question. Seth, is there a modality that you find to be more effective than others or efficacious than others?
Wow. Well, if we're talking about addiction, I started off with the 12-step program. I went into rehab again reluctantly, but I did it, and it was probably the best thing I did. Again, it definitely saved my life. And I started off with the 12-step program, which at the time was amazing. It was the best thing for me at that time. But since then, I've obviously studied addiction psychology in a master's level. I've read a lot of books and studied under Dr. John DeMartini, who's the leading human behavioral consultant in the world. I'm currently studying and doing a lot of work with TJ Woodward with conscious recovery. Got involved with smart recovery, and they've all played a massive part. All of these modalities have played a massive part in my life, and I've used them all, and I brought them all together, and I've more or less creating and developing my own modality now. So I think the answer to that question is whatever works, works. Don't disregard anything and use everything in addition to. And I have time and respect and love for every single modality that's out there, because they've got one thing in common, and that is to try and help the suffering addict. So they've all helped in one way or another. And I think the timing of them, the way they happened, was perfect for me. But my modality is going to be the modality of all modalities. Hi, Kelly. I know Kelly. How you doing, Kelly?
Awesome, Kelly. Thanks for watching the show. It's an interesting thing, right? I think your superpower is really your mindset around it, because I took this quote from your About page, and this is the one thing that I wanted to really kind of pull the thread on this show. And I relate this to a quote I heard from Robin Williams. And, obviously Robin Williams was crazy off the charts, doing a bunch of drugs, like, and alcohol and those things. He said this, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, that bottle of Jack Daniels on the shelf always spoke to me. It spoke to me every day. And it asked me, is today the day that I pull Jack off the shelf and we become friends again? Right. And your quote is, to be frank, I don't know if these events caused my addiction or if it was some sort of predisposition, but I do know that I am an addict and will always be an addict. Right. And I don't know if I just got chills, if it just happens to be because I'm in the mountains and I'm just going to have chills the whole day, right? Because it's like 16 degrees or whatever. But, you coming to the realization that you're always going to be an addict in the present tense, even though you are by definition a recovered addict, you've recovered these things, right? Talk about that. Talk about the mindset wrapped around, the present tense of addict.
Yeah, I think, and it can sound quite counterintuitive when I'm trying to help people overcome many things, not just addiction. But I think acceptance is the answer to all my problems today, Scott. Until I can accept it, I'll get no serenity, I'll get no peace, and I won't be able to move on. What I'm trying to say, and what I try and mean from that, is that I think it just means don't be complacent.
Right.
I think complacency is probably, along with isolation, along with boredom, is probably one of the main three that can lead to relapse, can lead to going back to that life again. So I have to keep reminding myself that I'm an addict and I'll always be an addict. It doesn't mean that I can't. Being an addict does not mean I'm in active addiction.
Right.
It means that if I don't watch myself, if I don't continue to do what I do, which is practice all these modalities and practice what I do, is by helping people and being of service to people on a regular basis, there's a very strong chance that I will go back to active addiction. So I have to remind myself that I am and I always will be an addict, but I'm an addict in recovery, and I haven't gone back to that life. And the reason is because I keep on doing what I do. And that's what I mean by that. And it's I think when we forget about the past, or when we forget about where we've been, I think it's quite easy to go back to that place again. I think it's important not to beat yourself up about it, but to acknowledge, not to hide away from it, but to acknowledge. I'm a massive believer in the universal law, the law of duality, right? Because there's no predator without a prey, there's no prey without a predator, there's no good without bad, there's no bad without good. We have this, we've been sold this fantasy, and we buy into a fantasy of living in a one-sided world. When things are going really well for us, everything's all positive, everything's all great, we want to stay there. And we, as a lot of people choose not to look at the drawbacks of that. Well, I think it's important to look at the drawbacks, and vice versa. When we're having a real bad situation, real negative situation, we don't look at the benefits of that situation, how it's serving us today, how it served us then to now. So I always try and look at both sides and bring them to an equilibrium. And that's what inspires me. And that's my best chance, and anyone's best chance, to live an inspiring and fulfilling life. So always, in my humble opinion, never ignore the past, never regret the past, but acknowledge the past and see how it served you today. So my addiction, my trauma that I endured. And I'm not saying, you know, the constant abuse, physical, sexual, racial, mental abuse was a good thing. It was very wrong, very, very wrong. But I've had to look at how it served me today.
Right.
And it served me today is by giving a message to people, because I've been there.
Right.
Anecdotal experiences, you know, of course, that's, you know, that's relative, right? But
Right.
I'm a strong believer where lesson lived is a lesson learned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that puts me in a position where I conceivably see that I can help others, not just from an academic sense, not just from a vocational sense, but from a sense of personal experience. I have a comprehension of addiction. I have a
Right.
certain comprehension of mental health. I have a comprehension of trauma. I have a comprehension of adoption. I have a comprehension of so many things that people will possibly go through at some point in their life, especially trauma. I think
Right.
everyone at some point will go through some kind of trauma. And as TJ Woodward says in Conscious Recovery, we try and stay away from big T trauma, little t trauma. Trauma's trauma.
Right.
Trauma is trauma.
Mm-hmm.
People again have this misconception that trauma has to be something like sexual abuse or a massive loss in the family or whatever. Whatever is traumatic for you, however big or small it is for someone else, is personal to you, and that is trauma. And I have a massive comprehension of different types of trauma. And this can't be taught. This can't be
Right.
read. Yeah, that's
Right.
what I think. It gives me the authority to share my experience in the hope of healing and helping others.
Yeah.
Recovered addict,
Right.
victim abuse, you know, abusive victim. Um, I'm now a social behavioral coach. I'm an author. As I said, my book's coming out soon. It's going to be
Right.
amazing. Professional speaker, addiction specialist, soon to be psychologist. I now share my message on radio and TV. I'm on a major TV platform in the UK. But above all, none of this would be possible if I didn't survive this.
Right.
And I survived it for a reason. And I survived it for a reason to give a message of hope to as many people as I can through any platform, through beautiful, beautiful platforms like your show,
Right.
in the hope that even if I help one person, yeah, it would all be worth it.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that's why I do what I do.
Yeah. I love Tony Robbins' question. He says, "How is the worst thing that happened to you the best thing that happened to you?"
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And my way of saying is that how did that worst thing serve you today?
Right. Exactly. Right. We've had some other comments and questions come in. Right. We're blowing up over here. Right. So Kelly dropped in, doing good. My son came by and gave me a pair of socks with flamingos on them. First time he has done this in years. Right. So, and then you're probably going to have to, is that your full name?
That's my mother-in-law all the way from India. Hi, mummy. Oh, it's always great. It's always great to have her. Like, that was my name that my adoptive parents gave me when they adopted me. Safraz. I've changed it since to Saf for many reasons.
Right.
But yeah,
I think she had a typo, or she put help, right? Help's supposed to be in there, right, as well. So
beautiful. Thank you.
and then we've got Jed, right? Complacent barrier as destruction sounds, social communication desperately found, invisible talk ordered up the new strut as a rock bottom motivation finally struck. That's a great poem, right?
Jed comes out with these things that just really enlighten me and really make me feel good. Jed, you keep them coming, bud. Keep on coming.
Yeah.
Jed's a good lad. I think I'm definitely going to get you on my show, Jed. He's a phenomenal person.
Right. He's got another one. Past created the messenger. So without the test, there's no testament, right? So, exactly.
Yeah.
It puts us on a mission, right? Because we've passed through the eye of the needle, or the dark night of the soul, right? You know, so what was you said you reluctantly went into rehab. What was your dark night of the soul that really led you through to come out to where you're, I mean, obviously you didn't come out of that the next day and you're the Saf you are today, because you probably were still, I've quit alcohol multiple times in my life for different reasons. Right. I was actually drinking as a teenager in high school, and, got fully sponsored to race go-karts. I don't know if you know my story about racing. I wanted to be a NASCAR driver, wanted to do all that stuff. And this is prior to winning any championships, really. I've won probably a couple state championships at this point. And I was drinking pretty heavily. I mean, like, I remember, like, I was in high school. It was like 10th grade. I'm drinking like 13 Crown and Gingers, I mean, just like, I hope my kids don't watch this show, but, but, yeah, it's, I don't even want to say what my nickname was, but I mean, I was hanging out with a bunch of people, and then I got sponsored, and it was cold turkey because my life, I knew this was a life-changing moment in my life, right? I mean, this was a game changer for me, and I knew alcohol was hurting me. And right. So when I turned 21, I wasn't drinking. 21 in America, that is like the time you go out and get drunk for the first time legally and all that stuff. Right. And that type of stuff. So I didn't, it was like I'd broken up with a girlfriend. I was like 21 and 6 months old. And I guess that's part of my personality. I have an addictive, competitive type A personality. Right.
Well, that's the trauma right there, Scott. Breaking up with the girlfriend. That's a loss. That's a trauma.
Right? Yeah, it's trauma, right? So I had a beer, right? And then probably a year later, I'm working in the restaurant business, and then it's just game on, right? I mean, back then it was like, like an employee discount on a beer in South Carolina. I was paying like 87 cents a beer. You go to the bar and get a 96-cent Rolling Rock at Bar None, and Hootie and the Blowfish are roaming around in there. I mean, it was like, it's like, it was really a fun thing, right? And when I was in college and stuff, and it was just game on. But anyway, I want to get back to your question. What was a dark night of the soul that really like changed you into like, hey, I want to stop all this nonsense and really get into living my life? Because the message didn't come until later, right?
Oh, wow, definitely. Yeah. And it was, people say you got to hit rock bottom to value your existence. And that wasn't my story, really, because I hit many, 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 many rock bottoms. So I could have come into this new way of life if that was the case many, many years earlier. I think for me, I was just done. But I only realized I was done when I was in that room or the rehab facility. I think the night before I was in Berlin, in Germany. And I've always had great jobs, and I was an asset manager, and I was in Germany looking at some assets, and I got arrested. I got arrested in Germany, and I was put in the police jail in Berlin. And I remember, and my boss had obviously seen all this, so the inevitable was going to happen, which was he was going to fire me, which he did on the plane journey back to London. And I'm sitting in the cell, and rather than being remorseful or being sad or anything like that, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, this is the nicest police cell I've ever been in. And I remember thinking that, Scott. I remember thinking, how can someone so delusional think this when the inevitable was going to happen? I'm losing my job. I'm a wreck. I've got arrested again in another country. The week before that, I was arrested in the UK for another completely different thing. And the pattern was going on for the drinking and the drug pattern was 33 years in total. Wow. So I came back, and obviously the family had heard about it. I'd transferred some money from the wife's account, a lot of money, which more or less funded my night in Berlin, which eventually got me arrested. And then a couple of days later, my daughter actually had booked an appointment with this rehab treatment facility. I went reluctantly. I went just to fly the flag, just to keep up appearances, just to keep them sweet. I had no intention to stop what I was doing. I was still in denial. I didn't even think I had a problem. And I went, and I remember we walked up these stairs. It's all in the book. Walked up these stairs, went into the room, and met my key worker at the time. And I sat down, and I don't know what happened, but I just broke down literally for 20 minutes. I was flooding. That's for the first time I realized this ain't rock bottom. I was done. I was just done. I was emotionally. I was just done, mate. It was,
Yeah.
and it's quite bizarre because I'm going up there. I had no intention. I had no intention to stop, and I just remember that moment. I was. There's no other way of putting it. People call it an awakening moment or enlightenment. You can call that if you want to call it that, but all I can say that in that room at that moment was the first time of 33 years of drinking alcohol and using drugs and causing mayhem and causing destruction and countless police cells and countless violent acts and countless chaos. I was done for the first time in my life, just done. And I haven't had a drink or drug since.
Wow. That's an amazing story, right? And that's the thing, is that you have the comprehension of it, right? Because you've been there, right? You've been there. Sandra D is alcohol. So many people. I applaud anyone who makes the decision just to stop, right?
Yeah.
And then Kelly, right? Everything I've survived, I know it's for others, right? And then we got Angel gave us a hi. All right, hi Angel. Thanks for being on the show.
Hi Angel. We haven't seen you. I missed you on my show, Angel, on Tuesday. Hopefully, we'll see you back next Tuesday.
Right. I'm the same way, right? Everything I've survived, right? I had probably 6 or 7 too many tequilas one night, right? You've been there, right?
Yeah.
It's and drove, right? And I drove a Mazda Miata, and I wrapped that bad boy around a tree, thinking that I was the driver that I was in, racing karts, right? And I put the rear bumper between the seats. If it had been a 90-degree turn, one more on the spin as I was spinning out, it would have wrapped around the tree that way, and I probably wouldn't be here right now. And so,
drinking
yeah.
and driving was a common thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of anything that I did, really, but I don't regret it. I'm doing what I'm doing today. But wow, that was a regular occurrence.
Yeah, it was for me too, right? And probably the training of racing and things like that probably is one of the reasons I'm here. Not from that particular moment. That was a hand of God, right? That was somebody was watching out for me there. Angel's got a couple more comments that came in, and then we'll you grow so much from your experience and see how many help you now, right? And then Big Heart, grateful to listen to you, Saf.
Right. Thanks, Angel. Good to see you again.
Yep. So let's talk about your book. You mentioned it a couple times, right? So what's the title?
I thought I'd get that one in there, Scott. I thought I'd get that one in there.
Well, I here's the thing, right? I'm trying to. This is kind of like a boxing match, right? I'm like letting you, like, we're getting serious, right? Then I'm lightening it up a little bit, right? Because I don't want to be serious the whole time, right? and what I like to get background stories, like get people, in there, right? And really get us in there. And then tell the story, and then like, okay, what's next? Where can people find you? That type of stuff. But I know you got your book coming out. You're going to be in Dubai doing a launch on it. So what's the title of the book? Tell me about it.
Yeah, the title of the book's called Out of the Madness. Mm-hmm. Apparently it's not that long that it's taken, but it's about 3 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
I started the project coming up to 3 years ago. It's something that I wanted to put down in writing, and there was no real reason to write the book apart from from a therapeutic sense. And the more I kept on writing it, and I took my time in writing it, I had many months where I didn't write anything, and then I came back to it. I thought, you know what, people need to know this story in a deep sense of where I've come from. And I think everyone will be able to resonate at some point in the book with my life story, whether it's abandonment, whether it's addiction, whether it's trauma, and whether it's doing good stuff. Okay, because even though the book's called Out of the Madness, 3/4 of the book is about being in the madness.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the last chapter, if you like, is about out of the madness. And the main reason what I'm trying to get across with this book is to give a message of hope that you can get out of anything. You need a bit of help along the way. You need a bit of luck on the way. But if you need to survive along the way, and if you can survive through this, there's a reason that you survived. There's a reason why I feel that I've survived is by doing things like this, by trying to give this message of hope. And with that, of course, because I'm a social behavioral coach, I'm a soon-to-be addiction psychologist, but I am an addiction specialist. I help people globally, more so now because of Zoom and technology around the world, and do a lot of talks and do a lot of one-to-ones, a lot of workshops where people come to me because I've been there. I've been there in so many different ways, and I've come out of there in a positive way. I've come out of there in a way, in a way of abundance, and because of that, coupled with my vocational skills, coupled with my academia, of course, my personal, I put them all together, and I can help, I believe, many, many people with a no-nonsense approach. Because there's no lying in me, and you can't lie to a liar. So I know, I mean, I know if something's not right, I'll see it, because I did it all my life. I think one of the biggest things as an addict, we're very good liars, and we are very selfish, and that's where it can take you. So I've been there. I know when you're trying to kid a kidder. Yeah. So I will try and get them back on track. I'm not going to say yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, sir. I'm going to say, look, let's do this. You either want to do it or you don't. And I think the people I do try and help are people who, not like a last resort, come to me, but people who've tried a few things, have got so far, and they want to go to the next level.
Right.
And I think they're the majority of people who do come to me. Not to say that I don't see people who've come into early recovery, or people who have started getting anxiety issues or depressed, but the majority of my clientele have people who come to me from the next level. But I do see people all over the world, and so the book is a catalyst to give a message of hope to people, and also to give people an idea that, well, maybe just maybe Saf could be the one who could help me.
Right.
Because he's been there, and he's studied, and he works in the field. And I think a combination of all those three things, in particular, 33 years of addiction and trauma, I think stands me in good stead to help people.
Right.
And
so
that's
how does we've got several comments and questions that come in. So, but I want to ask you this before I get first choice, guys. Sorry, I know enough about this type of thing that because I've taken courses like the influencer courses, and that talk about the Lancy Street and those type of things, right? So how much does you helping other people by coaching them, talking to them, writing a book, doing shows like this, how much does this help you stay clean?
100%. It's the day I stop helping others is the day I stop helping myself.
Got it.
And to some people that might think, oh, he's doing it just for himself. It goes back to the old oxygen mask scenario, right? When you're on the plane, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first, then you put it on others. Until I can put the oxygen mask on myself, I can't help anyone else.
Right.
Once the oxygen mask is on myself, which it is now, it helps me help others, and it helps me keep the oxygen mask on myself, so I can still put other oxygen masks on other people.
Right.
That's the best way I can put it. So yes, it keeps me clean. But I think that's one thing, but also the fact that I've led that life. I've experienced horrific trauma in some cases, horrific experiences, things that, I used to be part of a crew. I used to want to be a gangster, right, Scott? We call it IGS. I call it IGS, which stands for Imaginary Gangster Syndrome. I thought I was John Gotti of London.
Right. Yeah.
That's where it can take you. I had a crew of people I used to hang with. I think you might have a photograph of this crew. There was.
Oh yeah, we do. Right. Let's check out the crew. Right. Let's see here, and then we'll get to here's the crew right here.
Yeah. Right? Obviously, that's me in the middle, but you know, I don't want to say too much about the other two. They may still be doing what they do. I'm pretty sure the one with the hat is not. He's turned his life around, and you know, we were all part of the same crew. We had a thing called Thug Thursday, and we get up to all sorts on a Thursday in particular, and that's how we used to roll. But it was all fake
Mm.
on my side anyway. It was all pretend. It was all make believe. It was all it. You know the statement: the abused becomes the abuser, right?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I didn't abuse the way I got abused, but it was a sense of control for the first time in my life
Mhm.
as an adult. I had big guys around me. I had people who had influences, people who knew the streets, and it made me feel good.
Mm.
For the first time, I had a bit of control. Look, from the ages of 11 to 17, Scott, I was
Out of control.
abused on a daily basis. I had
Mm.
no control. Then I come out of boarding school, and a year later, I find that I was adopted. My whole life, I was living a lie.
Mm.
I was broken. That took my addiction to the next level. To the
Yeah.
next level. That got me involved in that life of toxicity, the life of the gangster stuff, the stuff where I never wanted to be like that, but it made me feel good. It made me belong somewhere where I'd never belonged in my life.
Well, it gave you acceptance and it gave you power, right? It gave you those type of things, right? Over where you're at, right?
That's what. Then my mum died, cancer. Then
Mm-hmm.
then from that I got onto cocaine, and
Mm.
then my father passed away a few years later, and that's when I got onto crystal meth. And these wounding bereavements, my whole lifestyle, the control, the trauma, everything came into one. And I thought I was something I wasn't.
Mm. Wow. Well, let's get into my question is, and we can get back to this, is that how did you balance, your work life and this, and probably not so good, right? But you were able to keep the charade up for a bit, right? Until Germany and all those things, right? But that's the whole point, I guess, right? You can't lie to a liar, right? You can't sell a salesman. You can't bullshit SAF, right? When it comes to those type of things, right? Because
Oh,
you've done all of it, right?
I've done it all. And the funny thing is, I'm not sure if it's the same with everyone who's had a life like mine, but I used to get bored very quickly.
Mm.
Um, and I could never leave a job, but I'd end up getting sacked from nearly every job that I did because
Mhm.
of my constant intoxication, my constant rebellious self, causing mayhem in every workplace. But I was good at most of the jobs that I did, and a lot of them were sales. A lot of them were dealing with CEOs and MDs because I knew how to talk to them. But
Mhm.
I also knew how to sell to people who possibly couldn't afford certain things. Um, I knew what to say to people because to get what I wanted to get done, I was very good at manipulating,
Mhm.
which obviously I got all that through being manipulated myself. And I learned that, as I said, a lesson lived is a lesson learned. And I used that even when I was in the madness.
Right.
Um, but I ended up getting sacked. I mean, I remember one day I got sacked from like 3 or 4 jobs, not because of my work rate, because of the chaos and the mayhem and the destruction that I was causing because of my lifestyle.
Right. Right. We had a question that come in from Donna here, and I don't know if Donna's one of your regulars or just
Oh,
happened to come in. All
yeah.
right. What happens if someone quits drinking but doesn't get therapy or find out why they were abusing alcohol in the first place?
Yeah. First, I'd like to say, with regards to alcohol, some people may know this, some people may not know this. Alcohol is the only drug, yes, drug in the world that you can die from withdrawals.
Mm.
You can't die from heroin withdrawals. You can die from a heroin overdose or cocaine or crystal meth. But when it comes to withdrawals, you can't, more so with a daily drinker, but you can't just stop just like that. Because when you stop alcohol just like that, you'll start getting sweats and shakes. And if it gets to the seizure level, the fits level, you will die. So I want to make a point that if you are suffering from any withdrawals because of suddenly just stopping, and it usually applies to people who drink on a daily basis and quite a lot, please do one or two things: call the ambulance or have a drink. Could save your life.
Mm.
Sounds funny, it counterintuitive. I'm saying have a drink because you're trying to stop, but it could save your life. So I wanted to get that point out of the way. You can't do it on your own. Anyone who says that they can do it on their own, it's wrong.
Mm.
You might succeed for a week, a month, even a year, but unless you work on yourself and work within intrinsically, you cannot stay sober, abstinent forever or for as long as you want.
Right.
There may be the odd story, but very surprising if there is. This is something you cannot do on your own. So I think it's important to get help. We live in a world where there's a lot of help out there, free help. Obviously, you've got the fellowships. Yeah, you got the anonymouses, the Alcoholics Anonymous, the Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. Fantastic. They do the 12-step program. Some people don't like it because it comes across religious, and some people aren't religious, but I know atheists have been there. It's more of a spiritual program. It works if you work it, I guess. Success rate is not as high as we would like, but it's something, it's free. Try it out.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of support groups. There's plenty of professionals like myself who can help you. There's help out there. But the first thing, none of this matters, Scott. None of this matters if you're not willing to make that change, and you must genuinely want to stop drinking and taking drugs. And when we talk about addiction, we ain't just talking substances, we're talking behavioral addictions. I mean, I was a massive gambler. I had a whole package. I gambled everything. Yeah. There's other addictions, porn addictions, sex addictions, shopping addictions, video game addictions, mobile phone addictions.
Yep. Absolutely.
This is ruining people's lives in some cases. You get up in the morning, you're on the phone. You go to sleep, you're on the phone. For me, it's work, but I do find myself on it a lot. You can be an addict in everything and anything. The most important thing is if it is messing with your psyche, if it's consequential in any way, have a look at it, because you might have an issue with that. And until you can admit that there's a problem, doesn't matter what help's out there.
Right. Donna, I would say this, right? Someone who, like, I have, and obviously Saf, right? Addictive personalities, right? You have to, if somebody stops drinking alcohol, you have to be careful where they move that addiction to, right? Where do they move it to? For me, it's, it has been at times I've worked out too much, or I worked in my job too long, right? Or, or just, whatever, like I obsess or become addicted to like playing better golf, right? And what happens is that you put whatever that is, whatever that focus is, whatever that addiction is, above everything else in your life, above your family, above your friends, above that. So just watch where if it's not you, if it's somebody else, watch where they transfer it to. And I think the biggest key, and Saf and I have already talked about this, and that's why I asked him the question, is how important is it for you to help somebody else, right, through this? Because if it's all internal and you're all in yourself, right? And the story is from the Delancey Street, and you can look this up. People who go to prison, 95% of them go back to prison, right? So people who come into the Delancey Street and they come work in a restaurant, and maybe I remember this because of my 27 plus years working in restaurants, they had to sit on a bench for 8 hours to be able to work in the restaurant the next day, right? Oh. They sit on the bench. They've been in prison, right? They're an ex-con. They sit on a bench for 8 hours, right? They come into the restaurant and they teach them how to reset a table after a party gets up and leaves. They teach them how to reset a table. That's day 2. Day 1, sit on the bench. Day 2, reset a table. Day 3, you have to teach the person who is sitting on the bench how to reset a table. It immediately takes the focus off themselves and puts it on helping the other person learn the job. And you're constantly learning something and teaching something, learning something and teaching something, to the point that where people who come into this Delancey Street project, right? I think there's 10 or 15 locations across the country now in the US, that something like 5% go back to prison now versus the 95%. And so that's the key, right? It can't be this like, I'm going to quit, I'm going to do this, and without help. You got to get help, but you also, I think, need to take the focus off yourself and put it on and helping somebody else through the process. And that's where the AA comes in, and I think that's the 12th step that they don't never talk about publicly, but I've heard enough about it where I think that may be it. So
I talk about everything. If I think it's going to help someone, I'll talk about it. It's
right.
The program's been around since 1934, but there is other stuff. It's not for everyone.
Right.
and it was for me for a period of time. But I've moved on with other modalities, and I've learned other ways,
Right.
To move forward. And you rightly say, Scott, it's working as a collective. It's working together. Like I said at the beginning, that's when we are at our best. When we work together, then guide each other to redemption and not ridicule each other for past mistakes.
Right.
Help is
I think that, if I said for years, I lost, for 9 years, I have kept off the 40 pounds that I lost the second time. And I turn 49 next month. Right. And I said for years, I said, I eat like a fat man. Right. So just like in your quote, right? It's like, I am an addict, right? I am, in a lot of ways programmed to eat poorly, right? If stress hits the fan, right? These programs start clicking off, right? That my diet's not as tight as it was when I'm not as stressed and things like that. So finding ways to mitigate stress and those things, transcendental meditation was huge for me. I started doing transcendental meditation in Santa Monica, December 5th, 2019, and almost immediately my couple drinks a night, my couple glasses of wine, that whiskey, whatever, the need for that went away. Right. And so then I came back to Utah here, and my wife and I were sharing wine. We drink hot sake, stuff like that, just casually, a little bit, not every day, like once a week or something like that. New Year's Eve, I had some champagne, and today is the 19th of February, right? Yeah. 0 since New Year's Eve. And it was not like, hey, I'm going to be dry, and just, there's no need for the compensation. There's no need to cover up any trauma or any of those type of things because of the work I've been doing for all these years, right? Those type of things, right? I managed a restaurant that had 450 beers around the world. I know a lot about beer, right? Love, and respect the art of beer making, right? Managed restaurants has 600 labels of wine. Been to Napa multiple times, right? And no sommeliers talk about wine. I could tell you the 5 varietals in Bordeaux. I can talk about Rhone. I can talk about South Africa. I can talk about, Napa Valley, Sonoma, the difference between this, and this wine is in new oak, and this wine is in second time oak, and also managed a restaurant that had 1,100 whiskeys from around the world. I know a lot about whiskey and respect the art of it. But here I am at my life, is a stage in my life. I don't want to touch it. It's not that I'm not consciously going, I'm going to stop drinking. It just has fallen away because a lot of times alcohol is used to compensate for something in your life that's missing. Right. And so I think you got to make yourself whole, right? So you can do that. Right.
When a client comes to me, Scott, I ask them, I say a few things. If they come to me because of addiction, first question I ask them is, what's good about it? And they look at me thinking, well, there's nothing good about it. There must be something good about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it, right? And then we work out that, well, they call it coping mechanism. I call it a brilliant strategy. I got that from TJ. It's a brilliant strategy at that time. Why would someone do so much? What's the reason? Then we work and we go into it. As Gabor Mate says, it's not why the addiction, it's why the pain.
Right.
And I call addiction bonding.
I
don't call it addiction. I call it bonding.
Right. We got a lot of comments to get through, and we're just over an hour here. So let's see. Angel, look forward to reading your book. I am too, right? Out of the Madness, right? She's also put in, she's planning on writing her own book. So looking forward to that. I've written a short, punchy book before, right? Written multiple things. So just stay the course, right? It took Saf 3 years to get there. So just, if there's something that you're planning to do, start it. Mark Twain said the secret to getting ahead is getting started. So just start, right? And just get some words on paper every day or on your computer every day, right? And you can go back and edit later. So much strength comes from walking true stuff, right? So we're there. And then Sandra D. And by the way, I want to say, Donna, thanks for watching the show and thanks for asking the question. I hope we helped. If you got any other questions, let us know. Sandra, thank you guys for talking about this. Everybody needs to come out of the closet. We don't talk about this enough. Wounded people need to heal. God blessings to both of you. So, Seth, blessings to you, right? We did that at the same time, right? Look at us.
we got the glasses, we got the hand. I feel like getting my cap.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I had a bad hair day, so I had to put my cap. I had to put my hat on. Right. All right. So Jed's got some more. They may relapse, but everyone is different. Highly encouraged to understand that underlying urge of finding a better feeling elsewhere. Right. Mm-hmm. So true. Right. So true. Angel, as we heal ourselves, we heal others around us. This is true, right? Because we lead by example, Angel. It's super important, right? It's our children or our family. They don't do what we tell them to do, right? Hey, don't drink. But then they see us come home and pour that, 2-3 finger, bourbon, scotch, or a glass of wine, right? Well, mom and dad came home and they had a drink, right? Therefore, and so you train our kids to do those type of things, right? And then there's impact like in your life, right? That can happen as well. Angel also got, we are never an outsider. We learn to ask, right? Kelly, I'm creating healing gardens, vegetable gardens. I'm an end of life doula. I'm opening for hurting people to come to recharge. And if it's in the dirt, I'm an art studio for them to do art if they want. I don't really understand all that, Kelly, but I'm healing gardens, veggie gardens. It's so many things in there that I can unpack, right? So I wish you luck in those things and being there for people. In terms of veggie gardens and those things and end of life. I mean, end of life is such a weird thing. A dear friend of mine, she was, like I said, my assistant at one of the restaurants I managed, the one with the 1,100 whiskeys, at the Stanley Hotel. We actually, Saf, we saw a ghost together in our office, right? She was my assistant. We were sitting in the office. We're working on computers. I was standing up just like this. She's sitting to my left. She actually said, she said, who's behind me? I could see somebody out of the corner of my eye. I turned and it vanished, right? And this particular hotel is it's where Stephen King slept the night he woke up from a nightmare and wrote the outline for The Shining. This hotel, right, in Colorado, right? And but she's hurting now. She's in a coma, and she was in a car accident, and her fiance passed away. In there, and both are pets. Luce, which is her dog that we went on a hike together with, and so it's really, and this happened. I just got word. I started getting messages and calls from some of the people that were there with us at the same time, and so it's been an interesting thing, and so she's been on my mind and in our prayers, and you cried, I'm going to cry right today. So it's been, we all need it, right? And as humans go, I would say she's at the top of the list. She was an amazing person. And talking about impacting people, I think that one of the things is that, my study on leadership and really trying to create safe environments for people and trying to start with kindness and empathy, it gave Aaron permission to be Aaron, right? And I did a post on LinkedIn and on Facebook because there has a GoFundMe out there. And so I haven't mentioned on the show yet, so if you find it in your heart to go support, Aaron's efforts and those things, just go scrolling into my Facebook profile or my LinkedIn. But, leaving an impact on people's lives and stuff is super important. And that's one of the ways that I've done it, right, is helping through leadership and that. Another way now is with health and those things. So anyway, let's move on. Right. So Angel's got another comment. We got more comments in, man. It's every minute, every hour I cry out for God in my childhood to help. The angels took me on astral travel. Well, Angel, you have the right name for angels, right? So it's trauma in childhood it should never happen, right? It should never happen. And my heart goes out to people. And, we actually support the, I don't know if you've heard of the Operation Underground Railroad that's based out of here in Utah, right? Well, The old, Underground Railroad was in the slave days, the Civil War, right? And it's Black History Month, and Harriet Tubman taking people through this Underground Railroad to get them, slaves to get them to the North and escape and get them to Canada and those things. Well, there was a guy who was a former FBI agent. He's originally from Utah, and he goes and rescues, trafficked children, right? And so they're here in Utah, and so it's dear to my family's heart, supporting, that type of thing. So as well, Jed, again, that's why I started selling drugs. It was to feel accepted. Right. Seth, you probably can talk about that. I never really got into that side of it.
Yeah. Well, I sold drugs of just fun my own habit, to be fair. Because by the time I got to the drug selling days, I thought I was a gangster. And I guess I could see where you're coming from, Jed, because it was like another control thing, right? People coming to me for the first time because I had something.
Right.
But I'm doing it not just for that. I'm also doing it to fund my own habit. Never made money. Didn't do it for money. Did it for control, respect, and to fund my habit. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah. It's let's see if we can get through the rest of these real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Right. Let's see here. Jed, another one. I became a workaholic when I first got sober because I have chilled out and started helping people in my spare time. So exactly what we're talking about. And see here, and then he put something about killing your withdrawals, right? Benzo, and I guess Annex. I believe it can help kill your withdrawals. I don't know about any of that stuff, right? But you definitely, if you're quitting alcohol, you've been drinking a lot every day, you need to you need help. You need to be in a facility for that.
Yeah.
Works if you work it, die if you don't. And then Kelly here, I have to check with my motives before doing or saying. That's correct. And then Angel connecting bridges. Jed, again, getting started. That's right. Ask questions because there's no wrong answers. Exactly. Right. And you got to find the person you connect with, right? You may connect with Saf, make it, may connect with me or connect with somebody else out in the world, right? So you got to find those things. And here's the thing, right? I look at these, people ask me if I read all these books, and the answer is yes, right? All these are different mentors for me, right? In a way, right? I didn't have to meet these authors for them to mentor me, right? The same thing with your book, right? I have other books down here. These are more diet-based books, and, Jesus Calling here, right? And so, that type of stuff. Talk with open hearts. It heals other hearts, connect us all as one. Absolutely. Josh says, thank you, gents. Josh, thanks again. And just a couple more here. Let's see here. She needs her favorite smells, sounds going in her room. She needs to hear her favorite songs. And then Tanya, here, first time on the show. I feel blessed to be here. I have struggled deeply in the last 5 years. I was torn wide open after 2 back-to-back suicides occurred within my family, my eldest brother and my transgender niece. Both covered their mental health challenges and trauma by self-medicating with alcohol and drugs. I chose to surround myself with support, which included professional support to get through the grief and coping skills. I chose to get support because death opens. And so, my heart goes out to you. I'm sure Saf does too. Tanya, and if you need, this is more Saf's, area of expertise. I would reach out to him maybe to do some consulting with him on these type of things, because the trauma of that is trauma, right, Saf?
Most definitely. And I've worked with a lot of people. I've got my own experience with suicide as well, and it's tough. It's tough, but you can get through it. We can all get through everything. There's a way out from everything. Doesn't mean we've got to ignore what's happened. Doesn't mean we've got to be happy with what's happened. But there is a way out.
Right. There is. So, Saf, let's closing words here. First of all, where can people find you online?
Well, I mean, if you type in my name, Saf Buxy, on Google, you'll see many platforms and many things that I'm on. But you can get me on my website, which is safbuxy.com, www.safbuxy.com. I have a Tuesday night show with Spirituality Gone Wild, My co-host is TJ Woodward, the legendary TJ Woodward in Addiction. That's at 6 p.m. UK time, which I believe is 1 p.m. Eastern. I think, yeah. I have a show every Thursday night called Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories, where I have discussions with people who have been of some kind of inspiration in their field or to other people, and that's at 8 p.m. UK time, which is
Yeah.
just find
there it is. Yeah.
Uh,
I was watching it yesterday, so I think that's more. Well, I'm in the mountains, so it's hard for me to say. Right.
3 p.m. 3 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Right. 3 p.m. Right. Because I had to go from that.
Exactly,
so.
I also have I'm on mainstream television, Sky TV in the UK. People in the UK will know what that is, and that's every Monday night UK time. I'm on at 9:30 p.m. at the moment. The whole channel is called Feel Good Factor, Sky Channel 191, but you can also see it on iozat.com, and you can see that globally. And I'm the lead host of a show called Men's Talk, which is we're starting our second series soon, so that's a great show as well. So and of course my book's coming out, but yeah, you can contact me through my website.
Got it. Awesome. We've had so many more comments come in, and we are officially now my longest live show ever, right? So
we were thinking about 45 minutes, but it's gone over half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. We're hour 17 minutes. So, I want to say thank you for you, Sap. I want to honor you. I want to say thank you for the work you do, and thank you for continuing to push the envelope in terms of helping people. And I think I'm going to start. You call me the Wim Hof of spirituality gone wild, because
you heard that yesterday. Did you hear that?
I did hear that. Yes, I did hear that. Yes. Yeah.
I'm me of Wim Hof. I don't know. Well, anyway.
Well, I do the Wim Hof method, right? I do. I might actually go for a hike today and take my shirt off. And we've gotten so much snow here. We've gotten probably 2 feet of snow in the last week, right? So I find myself outside a lot, and I had like a really thin jacket on, and I had long pants on because I was working in the garage on our snowplow.
Wim Hof be doing it naked. I might retract my statement, Scott.
Well, I know, but here's the thing. I walked outside, and from the garage, I put the door up, walked outside, and I was like, oh, it's kind of cold out today. And because the only reason I wanted it, because I wanted the dexterity to be able to like fix stuff, right? Because when you do the cold exposure, it just sucks all the blood out into your core to keep your organs warm, right? And I was like, it feels like it's 17 degrees, Fahrenheit, right? It feels like it's 17 degrees. And I opened the car door and it said 16 degrees. So that's how attuned I am to, I was a degree off, right? Yeah. So it was pretty good. But I'm going to call you the Bruce Lee of spirituality gone wild, because his quote is, absorb everything, keep what is useful, discard what is not, and make it uniquely your own. So you're the Bruce Lee of recovery, right? Because that's what you're doing, right? You're taking all these modalities, right? In the beginning, right? I heard this in the beginning, right? When they asked a question about the modalities, you're absorbing all of these things. You're keeping what works, right? Discarding what is not. And then you're making this uniquely your own, right?
Wow. So that could be the start of something, Scott.
That
could be the start of something.
It could be. Yeah, it could be for sure. Right. But that's what you said. You said it in so many words. And I just want to say thanks for being on the show. And there's so many people who are sending in, so many beautiful things about the show today. I'm glad I listened today. This is what Angel said to the voice in my, wanted to go back home, carry attachments, other spirits that cling to our body and affect our emotions. So thank you. This is wonderful. Have a super day to everyone from Tanya. So yeah, it's crazy. And Josh said, tell Rosie hello. Rosie is the ghost, I think, that we saw. Right. So with that. Anyway, thanks again. Thanks for all the work you do. And we'll have to do this again,
Love to.
Yeah. We'll have to do it again. So
maybe just before my book comes out, if you're available, I'd love to just.
Well, I can always, I normally have guests on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. I could always squeeze somebody in on a Monday, right? And do a show there. I've traditionally done, shows on Mondays, but of late I've done some stuff that at Mondays I've been kind of taking the day off, right, from that. And it takes a little extra time to prepare for the cooking show on Wednesday, right? Because I'm like planning and buying groceries and what are we going to make, and there's a lot of setup and overhead cameras and that type of stuff, right? So moving everything out of this studio down to the kitchen, right? That type of stuff. So Jed said Bruce Lee or recovery. You go, Saf.
That's the best thing I've heard today. Bruce Lee recovery.
Well, maybe you'll sleep better tonight, right? So,
and I love Bruce Lee as well. I just think he was amazing.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I do too. I'm a huge fan, right? And I use that in my life, right? I use it in my life. I use it in restaurants for years. I use it in health, right? So it's like, I just got asked to speak to somebody's coaching group about breathing, right? Well, the Wim Hof method, I did Wim Hof breathing this morning, right? Right before the show, right? So, and then I have other, I have, I've been using this for the last couple of weeks. This is this trainer, right? It looks like a snorkel, right there, right? And you can restrict the air that you breathe in, because when you're wearing a mask, right, you're actually restricting the air. So I wanted to strengthen my lungs. That's just 2 of like the 6 different ways that I like experiment with breathing, right? So again, I'm absorbing these 6 different breathing exercises, right? I tape my mouth shut at night when I sleep. That's another thing that I do, right? Wow. So I'm doing all these things around breath, right? And then I'm absorbing what works for me. Then I can, and then I can discard what doesn't work, and then I can make it, uniquely my own, and then I can share that with other people. But the only way to do it is to actually, to have that story to tell, you got to live it, right? I can read studies all day long, right? But until you actually do it, right? I've been taping my mouth shut for 2 years when I sleep, right? Over 2 years.
Wow.
Biggest biohack I've ever done, right? And so when you talk about living it, that's pretty cool stuff, right? Yeah, but that's what it is, right? So yeah, don't retract my statement about Wim Hof. You haven't seen did you see the videos I was doing push-ups in the snow? Or any of that stuff, right?
I think that's probably where I got it from. I think I did see that. You are definitely Wim Hof of SGW, and I don't mind being Bruce Lee of recovery.
Yeah. I did for a long time. I used to post stuff. I had this Instagram page called Park City Iceman, right? So Park City, Utah, right? Instead of being the Iceman, I was just the Park City Iceman, right? But with that. Anyway, hour and 23 minutes. We're gonna wrap it up. So
yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me, Scott. And I would love you to be on my show as well. It's on a Thursday night. If you're Thursday night UK time, so if you're available, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, it would be an honor to be on the show. We definitely could do it. We can talk offline about booking that, but I definitely would love doing it as well. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Sure.
Well, there you have it. We're going to wrap it up. Officially the longest live ever. Not the longest podcast I've done. I've gone 2 hours talking to people, but we try to keep these lives a little bit shorter. We're going to strip this and save this audio. We'll put it up on the podcast at a later point, so you can re-listen to it, or you can find it wherever you listen to it now. It's just going to save as a previously recorded. So Saf, thanks again for watching the show, or not watching, being on the show, right? And all those things. So we're going to wrap it up. My name's Scott Stanfield, episode 87, Modern Longevitarian. It's time to roll the credits. So cheers. Thanks for watching.